Hey everybody, it's Nick from Threat X3 Productions, and today we're bringing you another Thinking About Things. Today is a little bit more of a story time. It's just a topic that I've been thinking of, and I've wanted to make a video for a while now. Today's Thinking About Things is how Digital Killed GameStop. Now, first off, I want to talk about GameStop. I actually really like GameStop. I feel like my experience with GameStop is way different than most people's. Most people, if you ask them about GameStop, they're going to talk about how they always ripped you off, or they gave you really bad prices for a game that literally just came out, or countless other things. But for me, that was never my experience. Sure, there were some times that I got a lesser price than I would have liked, but I never held it against GameStop because I knew kind of the behind the scenes things, like the fact that they can't sell it for as much as they're giving it to you for, because then they wouldn't make any profit. Not a lot of people understand that, so then when they say, oh, well, you're gonna sell it for $50, why not give me $50? Well, if they did that, then it wouldn't be sustainable. They couldn't keep their lights on, they couldn't keep their people hired. So when I went into a GameStop, I was never expecting any more than actually what I got. I never experienced a lot of the stories that you hear, like for instance, buying a game and then going back a day later to only have it be like $5 or $1 or something like that. I've never had that experience personally because most of the games I buy, I guess you would say, are the more popular games, and so therefore usually they'd have some kind of deal up to 2 to 3 weeks after a game came out that you were guaranteed at least $30 for your trade-in. So I never experienced this story where you would buy a game one day and then turn around and try to resell it and then you only get like $1. I've never personally experienced that. My experience was much more positive. When I first started my addiction with GameStop, it was way back when I was about 12 or 13. I went to the mall, the Boise Town Square Mall. Back then it wasn't called GameStop, it was called Software Etc. And at Software Etc. I had so much fun trading in games to go get another game, waiting till that nice 7-day grace period before I turn it back in and get something else. Usually it'd take 2 or 3 times for me to finally keep a game. But then later I'd end up trading that game back in to get another new game. This was pretty much my entire being of being a gamer. I never really kept anything for that long, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved having fun with games, experiencing it, getting the talking points that I really like, and then kind of moving on and figuring out what's next. This was my very first experience of the gaming culture. This is what got me into gaming, not as a hobby, not as something that I do like on weekends every once in a while. This is what got me into gaming as a lifestyle. It was no longer just something I did for fun. It's something that I wanted to do for life. This was a lifestyle, and it was all thanks to GameStop. So I never had such a negative experience towards it. I always loved it. But then the PlayStation 4 came along. When the PlayStation 4 came along, they started doing stuff a little bit different. Now, back in the PlayStation 3 era, you would have to maybe download certain patches, you would have to maybe download part of the game, but for the most part, most of the game was on the disc itself. Then came the PlayStation 4, where I would pop in a disc and it would download the entire game, whether it be 5 gigs or 50 gigs. I would have to wait for the game to download before I played the game. And then if I wanted to play the game, I had to have the disc in, even though it downloaded literally the entire game onto my system. This is kind of what made me make the switch to digital. Now, like I said before, I never really had that much of a game collection. Usually I'd have 3 to 4 games that I really liked, and I just liked having them on my shelf. But for the most part, I didn't have that much games. PlayStation 3 was actually when I first started getting a good majority of my stuff digitally, but I still liked going to the midnights at GameStop. I still liked picking up that physical copy of the games that I really liked. And it wasn't until the PlayStation 4 that I finally decided that there's really no point in me having a physical copy of something. And it was more of a time thing than it was a nostalgic thing or anything like that. It was just time-wise, I could have my game downloaded before it even came out. One of the first games I actually did this for was a game called Rogue Legacy. This was the first game that made me realize that I could just get it digitally and actually get it earlier. Let me explain. I live in Boise, Idaho. Boise is in the Mountain Standard Time, which means when it's midnight in New York, it's actually only 10 here. So that first time I pre-ordered Rogue Legacy, I had it downloaded already on my PlayStation, and instead of having to wait until midnight, I only had to wait until 10 o'clock. This was awesome because Rogue Legacy was a game that I was super excited for. I got to play it at a friend's house and I was like, this game is absolute gold. So I was really excited for it. So when it came to being able to play a game at 10 instead of midnight and already have it downloaded, instead of having to go get a hard copy, bring it back to the house, put it in, wait for it to download the game onto my PlayStation, also wait for that infamous day one patch that almost every game has. Almost every game. Every freaking game. And now with digital, all I have to do is download the game. Now I know what you're thinking. But wait, what about when that license suddenly disappears into the ether? You never really own the game, you're just leasing it. Well, that's actually very true. But unfortunately, in today's world of gaming, you don't actually own any of your games anyways. There are a few exceptions that are single player only, but a good majority of games and just the way they're being made is so that they're going to be online all the time. So this, coupled with having to download the game anyways onto my system and the time saving thing, was one of the main reasons I decided I was just going to make the change straight to digital. I had already kind of done it before, like I said, in the PlayStation 3 era, but now it's official. Now even games I'm super excited for, I 100% get it digital. The thought of going to GameStop or Best Buy or getting it from Amazon physical just never passes my mind. I'm just gonna go straight to the PlayStation Store and get it there. This is a personal preference of mine. I mean, obviously there are plenty of people out there that like having the thing on their shelves to look at, but for me, it was just fitting my lifestyle. Like plenty of Americans out there, I don't own my own house, I just rent an apartment. So I don't exactly have a ton of room for a bunch of clutter. And then even if I do have clutter, I'd much rather it be something like video game memorabilia or little statuettes, not this little box thing that happens to have a video game in it. The last game I actually got was Star Wars Battlefront, and after how crappy that game was, that was the moment that not only did I decide to go fully digital, but I also decided to be way more careful on my purchases. I no longer pre-order, which used to be a huge part of my lifestyle. I no longer buy most games on day one because there's usually a flash sale or a PlayStation sale right around the corner. Now most of my games I'll get a couple of weeks after, or if I really want to play it on day one, I'll rent it from Redbox. Gone are the days that I go to my local GameStop and I look at what games I have to play. Gone are the days that I go in at midnight waiting for that new game. Gone are the days of GameStop. And man, did I love it. No matter what people said about it, no matter how many people hated on it, I loved GameStop. It was a store meant for gamers. Was it always run that way? Maybe not, but I always felt welcome. I always felt needed. Now, granted, there are going to be some people out there that are going to 100% disagree with my assessment, especially if you happen to work at a GameStop, but that was just not my experience. This story really is just about me and how much I loved GameStop, how much it was a part of my life, and because of just the simplest things as time management, did it become not a part of my life anymore. But then when a nice new game comes out and I'm super excited about it, I get to play it right off the bat, and that's really cool. But from time to time, I do find myself sitting there playing this brand new game and thinking to myself, man, remember when you used to stay up? You used to go stand in line. There was a large group of people all standing together waiting for this game to come out and just all excited. That atmosphere of gamers was awesome. And now everybody stays at home. Everybody just kind of waits for it to come online. I mean, I am part of the problem because I love doing things digitally now. I don't like getting physical copies, but still, when I get that new game and it's time to boot it up, sometimes I just stay silent for a couple seconds. Stay silent for the death of GameStop.